This past year we've had so many questions and comments and requests around faster fingers and how do you get faster fingers and how can I play more quickly. And so today we are finally going to be tackling this issue. But here's the thing, you're going to get faster fingers by not actually trying to play fast. Let me explain. For those of you who don't know, my name is Tatiana. This is the Flute Practice, a fun, kind and supportive way to learn the flute right here online. Okay, so let's break this down for just a moment. First of all, it's not about finger speed. We need to shift our focus a little bit and think about finger fluency or finger freedom, ease, fluidity. We want to get loose, agile, easy fingers. We want fingers that are even and controlled. And the speed comes as a byproduct of that. Because here's the thing, when we're going for speed, usually we're getting quite tense, we're trying really hard, putting in a whole lot of effort, and rather what we want is we want to build in a sense of calm, a sense of ease, so that our fingers can just start to fly and go, and we still feel really calm and relaxed. We want fingers that move in the most ergonomic way possible. Ergonomic, fancy big word for using your body in the most kind of natural way, in the way that it was designed to work. Okay, so how do we do this practically? Well, let's break this down. Step one, we're going to focus first on hand position, making sure that we've got good hand position. Now that is all relative because everyone's hands are different. Everybody's going to have a slightly different and unique setup when it comes to their hand position, but making use of some basic principles around hand position, making sure that there's not excessive tension or really just kind of mechanically unhelpful ways of doing things makes a huge difference. We're going to link you to a video where we're going to kind of walk you through some of the most common hand mistake issues, so you can go check that out for a little bit more detail on this. But let me just demonstrate one and show you just how this affects your finger speed. A really common one that I see is that students have their thumb kind of too far over to the middle, which really closes off this, what we call the carpal tunnel, this middle section, and just put your thumb there and try and wiggle your fingers. It feels horrible. So we have the thumb there, we try wiggle the fingers, and the fingers are automatically going to be slowed down. Now move your thumb a little bit more out again, just bring it out, and now wiggle the fingers. Well, doesn't that feel easier? So again, it's just the natural property of that hand where that thumb position needs to be a little bit more open. So generally I recommend putting that thumb somewhere underneath that index finger, more or less, finding the spot where those fingers can move nicely. Okay, so sorted out hand position's good, we're on our way. The next step is to look at the quality of the finger movement. What do I mean by that? Great question, I'm so glad you asked. Well, there's kind of two facets to this. The one is, are you kind of pressing the keys and kind of forcing the keys? Like when you compress a key, are you going to force it down and close it? Or can you just tap it and trust that it's going to close? Little shout out to any of you that are playing like dysfunctional, cheap, bad, just not helpful flutes. If your flute is leaking and you've got holes in your pads or leaks in your pad, you're going to be pressing just to play your instrument, and this is not helping you. Go buy a new flute. I'm only sort of joking. Go buy a new flute. We want fingers that tap, that have enough force in them to compress those keys nicely, but that are not pressing and squeezing, and that are not tight when they move, but actually are just moving really nicely from what I call the base knuckle. So from there, we're just moving those fingers nice and freely. In fact, you'll feel that movement even up into your arm, all the way up into your shoulder. If you really pay attention, you'll feel a little bit of movement there too. We like moving fingers. The next component though of quality of movement, of course, is that age-old question around how high or low your fingers should be off the keys. And there is debate around this. Don't get me wrong, but here's my advice on this. You definitely do not want your fingers too far away from the keys, especially because very often that means they're going to start banging down, and it's just a very inefficient way to move your fingers, right? Like if you were tapping your fingers, you would never be going like this to tap your fingers. It's kind of painful. So you want to find a distance from the flute that is natural for the fingers to tap. The other thing though, sometimes that happened, and this happened to me personally, is that you try and get the fingers too close to the keys and actually end up making those fingers almost a bit tense again, because having too small movements, for me at least, is also quite a tense feeling. You need to figure out what works for you here, so find the level of movement that your fingers can move quite freely and be released. A big thing though I do want to warn you against, and this is where your mirror is going to be your best friend, go practice in front of it please, is And this happens very commonly with like E to F sharp, where you're lifting up fingers at different levels. This is really problematic. So for example, you play E, then you go to F sharp and you lift this finger higher than this finger. Now you're going to go back to E, and now they're going to come down at different times because they're different distances from the flute in the first place. Now, of course, you could fix this and you could spend hours trying to train those fingers to move together. But if the problem is actually that they're starting at different places, I mean, you will eventually possibly get it. You'll learn to move this finger slower than this one, but really rather just fix the problem and make sure that they lift an equal distance. So quality of finger movement, so much more important than speed, because it's going to give you that speed. And just in general, can you build in a sense of ease into that finger movement? Can you just feel those fingers being nice and easy and calm and free? Or are they always in a blind panic and feeling stressed and anxious and tight and squeezing and pushing and forcing? This is a lovely moment for me to plug some slow practice. When last have you practiced slowly? But seriously, we have a course coming up, at least it should be coming up when this video releases. And in this course, it's all about getting faster fingers and speeding up your fingers, using these principles. But you'll be amazed how much slow practice we do in that course. Like, a lot. So I'm going to warn you now. If you don't like slow practice, please don't go and purchase that course. If you want to learn how to speed up your fingers, go purchase that course. It's pretty fun and pretty awesome, and we'll get you on your way. Okay, so we've sorted out hand position. We've looked at the quality of those fingers. It's time for step 3, which is to actually do some practice work. And my absolute 120,000% favorite things to do here: slow practice, working in rhythms, metronome, and sometimes a combination of all of those 3. So working with a metronome, helping you to get that lovely finger control and evenness, really breaking it down nicely. Also practicing staying really nice and calm. Then we have a whole set of amazing rhythms. If you've got the scale book, by the way, where's my scale book? This one. There is like a whole page. I'm going to show you this with a physical book because everything's online these days, but my book is printed in digital. So there's a whole page there. Can you see that? Can you see that? You could see that. There it is. A whole page of different practice rhythms that you can use. Go and check that out in the course. I have literally spent hours writing out rhythms for you guys because I love you. Just remember that. But practice in different rhythms, it's a great way to get that lovely finger control and evenness, and actually also really helps to release and relax the fingers. I usually practice in rhythms like 30 seconds up to the concert, just to kind of release those fingers. And then of course, your best friend in the whole wide world, your metronome. I'm only sort of joking. Seriously, your metronome, really use it. It is so useful for practicing, for getting those fingers faster, but start really slowly. Practice on smaller note values. So practice on like 8th note beats so that you've got like 2 notes per beat rather than bigger beats, to really check that those fingers are nice and even. Start slow and then build it up until over time, you're going to get that finger speed. So yes, the end goal will be finger speed, but we don't try and get finger speed. We do all these other things instead, and finger speed comes naturally. Pretty cool, right? Now go practice. Okay, but before you go and practice, you might want to go and check out this video over here, where we chat a little bit about that lovely hand position, some of the most common hand position mistakes that you might be making. Go check it out. And for those of you who want to get that course for faster fingers, we've linked you to that here as well. Happy practicing as always, and see you guys next time.